When Sergeant Daniel Brooks stepped off the transport bus onto the airport tarmac, the world around him felt strangely quiet. The sun had barely risen, and the morning light glinted off the polished wooden casket he walked beside, draped in the American flag. It held the body of his best friend, Corporal Mason Hill, a man who once said he'd come home one way or another. Daniel had escorted fallen soldiers before, but this was different. This was the man who pulled him out of a burning Humvee, who cracked terrible jokes during patrol just to ease the tension, who promised they'd open a small garage together once the deployment was over. Now, Daniel was taking him home to his family, and he intended to do it with honor. Inside the terminal, Daniel approached the airline counter, shoulders back, uniform crisp, orders in hand. The young clerk barely looked up. "Sir, you'll need to check any special cargo through our standard process." Daniel quietly explained. He wasn't carrying cargo. He was escorting a fallen soldier. A hero. But the clerk insisted on following policy. She refused to let Daniel accompany the casket to the designated transfer area and demanded he take a regular seat like any other passenger. It wasn't the words, it was the coldness, the complete absence of respect. Passengers nearby overheard and fell silent. Daniel felt anger rising, but held it back. This wasn't about him. It was about Mason. The situation escalated when a manager arrived, flipping through Daniel's paperwork like he was reviewing a refund request. He sighed and said, "Sir, escorting remains isn't our responsibility. You'll need to step aside. We have a schedule." The final straw came when he gestured for security to approach. That's when an elderly man, the one who had been quietly watching, stood up from the waiting area. He walked with a cane, but his voice was strong. "Young man, do you even know who you're talking to?" The manager scoffed. The old man reached into his coat and revealed his ID. Gasps rippled through the terminal. He was General Raymond Collins, retired, but legendary in the military community. Passengers gathered, whispering. Cameras came out. The general stepped closer. "This soldier," he said, pointing at Daniel, "is escorting a fallen warrior, and you dare treat him like a problem? Son, you just made the biggest mistake of your career." The manager's face drained of color. Security paused, unsure. The general wasn't finished. He demanded immediate access to the airline's director. When she arrived, she quickly grasped the severity of what had happened. Passengers were already recording. Social media posts were spreading. The director apologized to Daniel repeatedly, voice shaking as she realized the public relations disaster unfolding. But Daniel didn't want apologies. He only wanted one thing, the honor Mason deserved. The director escorted him and the general downstairs to the cargo area, where the casket had been left unattended. Daniel clenched his jaw. A soldier's final journey should never look like this. Without hesitation, the general ordered the ground crew to halt all loading activities. Every worker stopped moving. Silence fell. The general saluted the casket, and after a moment, every crew member, every pilot, even passing passengers stopped and joined in. One by one, hands rose to brows, hats came off heads, and the entire section of the airport turned into an impromptu memorial. The airline scrambled to correct things. They arranged a private escort ramp. They cleared the boarding bridge. They offered Daniel a first-class seat. He refused it all, choosing instead to stay with Mason until the moment the casket was secured on the aircraft. Before boarding, the general rested a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "You held your ground with more honor than they showed. Mason would be proud." During the flight, the captain made an announcement that left the whole cabin quiet. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are carrying a fallen soldier on board today. His escort, Sergeant Brooks, is with us. We ask that upon landing, everyone remain seated so he may exit first." When the plane touched down, the passengers stayed still. Not a single person stood. Some placed hands over hearts. Others wiped tears. As Daniel stepped onto the jet bridge, he saw a full honor guard waiting, lined up in formation. Someone had contacted the local base, and they arrived in force. Mason's family stood at the front. His mother hugged Daniel, as if he were her own son. "Thank you for bringing him home," she whispered. Daniel finally allowed himself to cry. The first time since the explosion. The incident at the airport, It went viral within hours. The airline issued a public apology. The manager was suspended. Policies were rewritten nationwide, ensuring no soldier, living or fallen, would ever be treated that way again. But Daniel didn't care about the headlines. For him, the only thing that mattered was that his brother-in-arms received the honor he earned with his life. And as the flag was folded and handed to Mason's mother, Daniel whispered to his friend one last time, "Welcome home."